Today we're ranking all 13 troops in Boom Beach. Now it really depends between warships, operations, and Mega Crab, so we're just gonna keep it general and focus on the main base. Starting off in last place is good old Cryoneers. Now you do unlock them fairly late at HQ 20, but they're mainly just used as a support troop. Sometimes you bring in one cryo, max 2 in like a rifle Zuka hit, or rifle lasers if you want. But the problem is, you take a full boat just to slow down a few buildings, whereas you can just use other gunboat abilities like critters or shock bombs to support you instead. Especially since Boom Beach only has 8 landing crafts, spending a whole one just to slow things down isn't really worth it. Medics are sort of the same as cryos, really just used as a support troop. They're a bit better because sometimes you have long range stuff like rocket launchers or even mines to deal with. Medics, sure, they do help you out, or the classic tank medics if you want. But just like with cryos, you have your own gunboat ability medkits which do the job without costing you a full boat. Given that you unlock them at HQ 15, they're a little bit better, especially before you get super strong troops. But by the time you get to the end of the game, you don't really need them. Tanks coming in at number 11. Now there is a small minority of people who really love tanks, and you do unlock them pretty early, which once you have them, drop them, they have a ton of health, you don't really gotta worry. But a lot of people just never move past that. Now it's funny because they aren't too bad even at high level, but once you get to max defenses, they're just better troops that are faster, do more damage, and just in general have more value. Tanks just have that soft spot for a lot of players starting out, having that chill, slow attack. But if you really want to pack a punch, gotta choose something else. Similarly, Grens are just one step above tanks. They do a lot of splash, and because you unlock them at a lower HQ, they're pretty fun. They can outrange a bunch of buildings and clear mines, but once you get to a high enough level, they just don't have that damage potential to really pack a punch. Especially once you unlock bombers later on, they're like Grens, but do like quadruple the damage. It's a pretty clear answer. Though I will say whenever we have the Gren speed boost, that is pretty fun to map clear. Coming in at number 9 is the OG troop Heavies. They're the pure definition of a meat shield in Boom Beach. From like HQ 2 when you unlock them all the way until the end. Though once you get to max levels, cannons, boom cannons nearly 2-shot them. So at that point, you want to have a stronger meat shield, or just ones in larger numbers like rifles. Even though there's better options, they're not forgotten. They're the face of Boom for a reason. And speaking of the classic combo, next is good old Zukas. The highest damage per housing space of any unit, and understandably, they have the lowest health of any troop in the game. Especially in operations, Zukas are pretty essential when it comes to core rushing, but as far as main base goes, you don't really see them used past the HQ 19 or so when you get lasers. Because at that point, there's just too many defenses that can deal with them. Rocket launchers, shock launchers, even bunkers which you can't even shock. Those hardcore players will of course always love them, but as far as easy and strong troops, Zukas don't really make the list. Warriors are another troop that loves to just rush the HQ, and for a lot of players, they're the go-to troop when it comes to map clearing. Just drop them, smoke them to the HQ, and take it down. Only issue is, when anyone makes any base, the first thing to look for is putting flames, machine guns right next to the HQ just to stop warriors. Plus, like half the time, there's a HQ health tribe, so warriors be hurting. At number 6 is what used to be the absolute worst troop in the game, because when mechs first came out, 1, they were even slower than Zukas, and 2, they couldn't even stun buildings. But now with a bunch of changes, they're the only normal troop that can shock stuff for you. The absolute best meat shield when it comes to long range stuff, because you put in a few mechs in front, and even if there's boom cannons, don't gotta worry because they're gonna be shocked. Plus for cool points, pretty sure they're the last troop Boom Beach made an ad for. Giant Pelican or mech. Rifles also used to be sort of an average meat shield, but one of the best things they did for no instant training is made rifles cost only 10 seconds to train. In fact, now a lot of people just use full rifles to map clear, because it's only like 5 diamonds to train all of them. In any case, they're the only meat shield that just has strength in numbers. As long as splash stuff doesn't kill them in like 2 seconds, they can distract for quite a while. Boom cannons, even doom cannons. Rifles stay reliable and get the job done. The most recent troop that came to the main island, and one of my favorites, rocket choppers. Being the only permanent flying troop already is a huge advantage, cause like a few defenses, shock launchers, flames can't even shoot them, and half the prototypes also don't. Plus the same update that Choppas came, we also got our flying hero, so they always make a great pairing. Best part, don't gotta worry about any annoying mines. They fly right past, and as long as you can keep them alive from cannons, boom cannons, you just wreck through the base. At least on main base, there aren't too many ways you can fly over gaps to take that advantage. But at least in other parts like operations, warships, crab, you see that a lot too. Choppas are the only troop that can go where ground troops can't. Now in top 3, third is gonna be good old bombers, troops with the highest actual damage and the longest range. They also pair super well with mechs, bringing in a few mechs as a meat shield, bombers to do the actual damage. If you keep everything under wraps, they're just unstoppable. Now you can argue they're a pretty boring high damage troop, cause once it hits stuff then that's pretty much it. You probably won't get as much satisfaction as some other troops. But if all you gotta do is do damage and kill a base, they're one of the best. Now in top 2 is one of everyone's favorite, Scorchers. Especially with HQ-24 when you can have 2 per boat, they just have massive HP and do some decent damage. So much that you can just drop 16 Scorchers, they burn through everything, and that's more satisfying. Especially when you get tribes like Scorcher Life Leech, then they just never die. As long as there isn't some crazy prototypes like Doom Cannons or Grapplers, really nothing stops them. Scorchers just burn through everything. And finally at number 1, could be biased cause my favorite troop is gonna be Lasers. It's just so satisfying watching them shoot, cause they're the only permanent troop that does high damage splash. You have so many different bases with buildings clumped together, the Lasers can kill like 20 at a time. Not to mention one of the best combos in Boom is Scorchers, Mechs, and Lasers, cause even if you have a few of them, they still melt through everything. Plus if you're crazy enough, you can do smoky laser hits going right in the middle of the base, and then just watching the show. Still not an instant win cause they do have pretty low health, but if you can keep them alive, then they're by far the strongest. But that's our ranking list, let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.